This is Frank Roneski coming to you from the Legacy Lounge in southern New Jersey. I figured it out, and I want you guys to figure it out too. Happy people outperform unhappy people. So, how do I get to that happy place? I never woke up one day and said, "This day is going to be so mediocre," and either should you. When I was in first grade, Sister Helen told our class that someday, by the grace of God, you'll find your vocation. We had absolutely no idea what she was talking about. We were only 6. But that conversation stayed with me as my meandering path through life brought me to become a street magician, a teacher, and eventually a middle school principal. I figured it out. Your vocation is your calling. It's what you're supposed to do. It's where you'll find your epic, those magical ta-da moments, and those wow factors. I figured it out. Unconditional love is a lot like unconditional leadership. Without love, there is no leadership. Leadership isn't about position or popularity. Leadership is a choice. Leadership is everyone's choice. Each of us was put on this earth with the ability to make a positive difference in the world around us by accepting our roles as leaders. However, some of us choose not to, or we do so in a negative way. I figured it out. If you accept your role as a leader, you can do some amazing things like raise the bar, set goals, never ask anyone to do something you wouldn't do, lead by example, create a team, think outside the box and then throw that box away, empower other people to become leaders, have integrity, always treat people better than you want to be treated, and have fun. That's where you can find your passions. Take those calculated, creative risks. I figured it out. There's a Maya Angelou quote. People may not remember what you said, they may not remember what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. I can't tell you one book I read in 8th grade, but I can tell you the name of every one of my classmates, how they made me feel, and how they made everyone else in the class feel. And so can you. I could tell you the name of every teacher I've ever had, and how they made me feel, and how they made the other people around them feel. And so can you, and so can your kids, and so can your students. I figured it out. For me, the perception breaker was when I met my 7th grade teacher and first basketball coach, Mr. Tamadney. He's the first teacher that made me feel important. And because I felt he believed in me, I believed in myself, and I thought almost anything was possible. I figured it out. He showed us that there's enough leadership for everyone. We can abandon that follower model. So years later, when I became a middle school principal, that's what I did. I took that follower model and threw it out the window and gave everybody an opportunity for leadership, especially the students. And because we gave the students a voice, they came up with some amazing ideas. They came up with the best ideas our school had. One day, this 8th grader comes up to me. He said, "Hey, Dr. R." And I said, "Hey, Pete, what's happening?" "I have an idea. You know how you're always telling us that everyone should have an opportunity for leadership? You know how you're always telling us that everyone should walk across that stage and down that red carpet? Well, how about if on the first day of school we did something differently? When we came up from the elementary school to the middle school, some of us were scared and intimidated. Those 8th graders were big. Some of them were ugly. So how about if the first day, when the new middle school students come up, you can announce their name, we could play music, we can cheer for them, we could welcome them onto campus and allow them to participate in what we do in leadership and character and having fun. I said, "That's a great idea, Pete." And that's what we did every day on the first day of school for the rest of the time. We figured it out. Well, one day, about 14 years ago, around the corner, on the first day of school, we rolled out that red carpet, and here comes former student Julie. And Julie was shorter than the other students and walked with an exaggerated limp because she was born with a birth defect called cerebral palsy. And that created barriers for her physically and learning barriers that most of us don't have. But she had that epic smile, and she gave me hundreds of those over the next couple of years. Well, later on, when she was in seventh grade, one of my goals as principal was to teach a leadership lesson to every student. So that's what I did. And if every CEO, manager, superintendent, principal, supervisor did that same thing, then our role models would not be cartoon characters that live under the sea, trucks that fold out into robots or Barbie. Fun people to hang out with. But our role models should be our principals and teachers and parents and grandparents and older siblings and aunts and uncles and neighbors. Then we could accomplish some amazing feats. Well, Julie was sitting in the first row when I was talking about raising the bar and setting goals. And she writes years later that at that point, I became vulnerable. I shared a part of me with the students. I pulled out of my pocket a card that had my goals written for the day, the week, the year. And I read them out loud. And she said the students started to figure it out. I gave them a part of me. At the end of her seventh grade year, because of her disability, Julie had to have her Achilles tendons cut, stretched, screwed into the bottom of her feet and her bones. A very painful operation. And she could have blamed a lot of things, but she chose not to. She thought back to those middle school lessons of leadership, character, setting goals, raising the bar. So that's what she started to do. She started to set her goals. The first goals were something like put on her shoes and socks, walk across the room. Well, she continued to set her goals when she went to high school. She wanted to take an AP language arts course. So that's what she did. She wanted to pursue the passion that for her began in middle school and become a teacher. So she enrolled and got accepted into a teaching program at Queens College in Charlotte, North Carolina. And she started to figure it out. But she also knew that the path for her was going to be difficult and not as easy as for some of her classmates. When she had to go out and do her field work, she had to take public transportation or an Uber. And by the end of her undergraduate career, she knew that she wasn't going to be able to complete her student teaching, but she completed her degree in social studies. And the last days on campus, she writes that they were filled with gratitude and reflection and wondering what it would be like to pass on those lessons to other young people that were passed on to her, those lessons of leadership and character and renaissance. So she enrolled in a graduate program to pursue her student teaching. Some of her professors tried to discourage her, and they even told her, you know what, Julie, we've been inspired by your journey so far, but maybe teaching isn't for you. Maybe you should try something else. Well, she just dug deeper. And right before she was ready to go into the classroom and student teach, she called one of her mentors. And she told her mentor she was scared and apprehensive. Her mentor told her to bring something familiar to class that reminded her of success and leadership and those lessons that she was trying to pass on. So she remembered that when she visited her old middle school, when she was in high school, to tell us about her journey so far, that we gave her a gift bag. And in that gift bag was a pin that said, Bellhaven Renaissance, there's no place like home. So she pinned that to her lanyard and went in the next day. And by her own words, it was a train wreck. Anything that could go wrong went wrong. She had a class with 35 students where she was the smallest in stature. But she just dug deeper and she remembered those lessons. And she started to pass on those lessons to other young people. The tipping point occurs when climate and culture shift perception so that you look in the mirror and not only see who you are, but you see who you can become. Because we believed in Julie, Julie believed in herself. And she's at the top of one mountain, and she has many more mountains to climb and oceans to swim. But April 2017, Julie finished her student teaching. And now she's at the beginning of becoming a great difference maker herself, where she's passing on those lessons and getting other young people to believe in themselves. The biggest form of oppression is when you don't believe in yourself and other people don't believe in you. Well, it's time to upturn the perception of education. It's time to upturn the perception of young people because Julie knew that that door was always open to accept your role as a leader. And we have together what the world needs right now, and we can accomplish some amazing things through hope. I salute the greatness in you.